Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer by setting the scene, because it's pretty dramatic. The year is 1453. The fall of Constantinople has just happened, and it completely chokes off Europe's established, highly lucrative spice routes to the east. Suddenly, the old ways of doing business? Totally dead. And this kicks off a high-stakes, geopolitical battle royale for maritime dominance. You see, European nations are no longer just looking for trade. They're literally racing to survive and dominate a brand new global economy.
So here is a roadmap for the explainer. First, the spice race begins, followed by the Portuguese monopoly, how rival powers enter, the English expansion, and finally, why the English won.
Section 1. The spice race begins, desperation and the sea route. So here's our inciting incident. Europe is absolutely desperate for spices, and thanks to the 1494 Treaty of Tordesillas, which basically saw Spain and Portugal literally draw a line on a map to divide up the non-Christian world, finding a direct sea route to India becomes the ultimate global race. It was fueled by this crazy mix of Renaissance curiosity and just pure, unadulterated commercial drive.
The Indian market quickly became incredibly crowded. Think of these nations acting exactly like competing megacorporations today, just flooding into a new market. The Portuguese struck first in 1498, but within a century and a half, the English, the Dutch, the Danes, and finally the French all set up shop. The race was officially on, and the grand prize? Total control of the eastern trade.
Section 2. The Portuguese monopoly, first movers and naval dominance.
When Vasco da Gama arrives in Calicut in 1498, it changes absolutely everything. The Portuguese didn't just want to participate in the trade. Actually, scratch that. They wanted to completely monopolize it. They established strategic outposts, most notably capturing Goa in 1510, giving them a massive anchor in the region. And then they completely threw out the existing rules of free trade. Under Governor Francisco de Almeida's Blue Water policy, they essentially tried to copyright the ocean. They implemented what was called the Cartaz system. This was a mandatory naval trade pass. If you were a non-Portuguese vessel sailing the Indian Ocean without one, your ship could be seized or sunk. It was just a bold, ruthless move for total maritime control.
Ultimately, that Portuguese monopoly declined. They had strict religious policies like the Goa Inquisition and faced rising, formidable local powers like the Marathas. But before they faded from dominance, they left a wild, unexpected legacy. Chilies, potatoes, tomatoes, cashews. I mean, just imagine Italian food without tomatoes, or Indian food without chilies. That is exactly how deeply this specific era rewired global agriculture and our everyday cuisine.
Section 3. Rival powers enter. Blood in the water.
A monopoly this lucrative just couldn't hold forever, right? Smelling blood in the water, rival European powers sensed an immense opportunity and began setting up competing corporate outposts all along the Indian coast. The geopolitical map rapidly became this highly contested, crowded business landscape. The Dutch planted their flags in Masulipatam and Calicut, the Danes took Trincobar, the French arrived a bit later and made Pondicherry the core of their influence. The tension of all these overlapping commercial ambitions was just palpable.
Section 4. The English expansion, strategic footholds.
Enter the English East India Company. Armed with a 1600 charter from Queen Elizabeth I that granted them exclusive trading rights, they began systematically executing an expansion strategy. And it was as calculated as it was aggressive. They didn't just rush in blindly. Step 1. Prove you belong. They did this by defeating the Portuguese at the Battle of Surat in 1612, which earned them the right to build a factory. Step 2. Establish a fortified southern headquarters in Madras in 1639. Step 3. Secure the incredibly wealthy region of Bengal by building Fort William in 1700. They systematically shifted from mere traders to absolute formidable power players by taking these methodical, strategic steps across the subcontinent.
Which brings us to a massive turning point in our explainer. We have multiple European superpowers fighting for the exact same prize. So, how exactly did the English outlast everyone? We really need to understand the underlying structural edges that allowed this specific organization to take the grand prize.
Section 5. Why the English won. The anatomy of victory.
It's time to deconstruct the success of the English East India Company. We're going to look beyond just the battles and dig into the financial and structural advantages that made them completely unstoppable. Think about modern corporate strategy for a second. The English operated on a joint stock system. Essentially, multiple people pooling their money together to share the financial risk. It came complete with a board of directors, strict auditing, and shareholder oversight.
It was transparent, collective, and professionally managed. Rivals like the French and Portuguese, on the other hand, they were completely tied to the whims of unpredictable monarchies. When France faced internal instability, their trade plummeted. But the English company, they just kept doing steady, accountable business.
Beyond corporate structure, the English held a massive technological and cultural edge. Because England entered the Industrial Revolution early, they had cheaper, technically superior goods and weapons. Their military utilized highly disciplined line infantry formations. Furthermore, and this is absolutely key, they lacked the intense religious aggression of the Portuguese or Spanish. They weren't there to force conversions, they were literally just there to make money. This secular, pragmatic approach made forging long-term alliances with local Indian rulers so much easier.
But all of this would mean nothing without the ability to protect it. 1588. This is the year the British defeated the Spanish Armada. That victory established an incredibly vital foundation for their global ambitions going forward.
Following that Armada victory, Britain developed the most powerful and technologically advanced navy in Europe. This undisputed maritime power acted as the ultimate logistical infrastructure. The Royal Navy could ensure safe sea routes for English merchant ships, supply uninterrupted reinforcements, and effortlessly cut off the supply chains of their European rivals. Literally no one else could match their scale or firepower on the water.
Now, we arrive at what might just be the most lethal weapon in the entire English arsenal. The year is 1694. This is the founding year of the Bank of England.
You might be wondering, why does a bank matter in a trade war? Well, because Britain developed an advanced financial system that acted like the ultimate corporate credit card. War and global expansion are painfully expensive. While other European nations literally went bankrupt trying to pay for their empires in cash, Britain's debt markets effortlessly raised massive amounts of capital at very low interest rates. This funded long campaigns, massive fleets, and the East India Company's endless expansion.
Which leaves us with a fascinating parallel to consider. We look at modern tech giants today, right? Crushing their competition through superior logistics, corporate accountability, and massive financial leverage. But you have to ask, how much of that modern playbook was actually written by the English East India Company over 300 years ago? It's a striking thought about how the mechanics of global dominance haven't really changed all that much. Keep that in mind the next time you read about a modern corporate monopoly. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.